welcome to Draft for Upside. I am Brewery Mark, and joining me today is Chris Emmerich. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. I've had a very nice run the last few days on DFS hockey.
Yeah, I've been trying to trail you. That's what I've been trying to do.
So,
Well,
as we like to start out every show, what beer do you have in your hand?
well, today I am starting it off with a New England IPA from Untitled Art and Lupulin Brewing. It's all right. I got another variety in the fridge from the brewery. I think it's coconut macaroon, and plan on doing quite a bit of drinking this weekend. Tomorrow is my birthday, and so I'm starting the celebration right here, right now, on the air.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully, we'll have a nice birthday present for you tonight in this Thursday night slate.
Oh, that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, they've got some nice presents. I hope they go to me. That's for sure. I've been good.
Me personally, I'm drinking some Witch's Hat that I got off of Danger last night, and then my all-day IPA, and I have some Sam Adams Christmas Ale that's been sitting in the fridge, so I figure I'd get rid of it.
Oh, nice.
So, Thursday night slate. So we have the Captain Showdown. I see in the chat room here we already have people posting lineups. Now, you wrote an article for us that we'll be posting after the show, breaking down Thursday night lineups. Do you want to start out with a little analysis on tonight's matchup?
Yeah, so I really broke it down, just kind of taking a look at this matchup because it is going to be a good one. But who are you going to put in that captain slot? That's going to be the most important slot for you. And there are quite a few different options. I don't think it's as obvious as it has been in previous weeks. I nailed it last week with Derrick Henry. I unfortunately did not go as heavy as my conviction was. I had some lineups. It was good, but at one point it could have been really good. So hopefully we can hit on some of these points this week, and my convictions I'm a little bit stronger on. So obviously we've got Patrick Mahomes, highest priced guy on the slate. The problem with playing that highest priced guy, though, is that not only are you going to get 1.5 on his points, but you're getting 1.5 on his salary, and so you usually have to find some value. And a lot of times there's not the value to go into it. I think this week there's a tremendous amount of value that you can put Patrick Mahomes in that primary slot. He's probably going to have the highest raw total, and so it's just going to be how do you sprinkle those people around there. I think the chalkiest guy is going to be Damian Williams at 4K. The Chargers lead the league in giving up yards to running backs. They've given up over 81 receptions to running backs so far this year. Usually giving up anywhere from 7 to 8. 2 touchdowns. It's going to be a matchup where he can take advantage of it. The question that you have with Damian Williams is how many snaps is he going to play? Is Shakandrick West going to get in? Is he going to vulture a touchdown? Certainly, you don't need a tremendous amount at 4K, but that's kind of where we start. How do you feel about the kickers and the defense in this game?
I'm avoiding defenses. I really think this is going to be a game that goes over the line. So lots of shootouts. Kickers are I think you're going to have to play a kicker for the price. I would lean towards. I almost said San Diego. I lean towards the Chargers kicker just because I don't think they have as much firepower as Kansas City.
I think they're both viable. I think it just really depends on how you want to see the game going and how you're constructing the rest of your lineup. It's obviously going to vary if you're putting in 1, 5, 10, or 150, but I think if you're putting Patrick Mahomes in, I think you can make a case for putting both of the kickers in. I do like Bagley a little bit more in that situation and hoping that Kansas City goes down and scores, and just the inability for the Chargers to score maybe without their 2 top running backs kind of rears its head. But, at that point I wouldn't put somebody like Keenan Allen in there. So there are some options. It just really is going to depend on how you're building that lineup. But I agree, the defenses are probably not someplace that you're going to want to go to in a lot of your lineups. Here's one I want to say, and it's in the article, is Deatrice Newsome at 1.6K. Look, I don't feel good about playing a backup running back. I don't feel good about playing a four-string running back. But with that price, if he just Walters a touchdown or two, I think that he pays off the value. I think he's going to be relatively popular because he did come up in a lot of my optimized builds. Have you given any thought to like the Newsome Jackson backfield that we're seeing out of the Bolts?
No, I kind of ignore everything below 2K if I can.
Typically, you know what? I'm with you on that for most slates. But I mean, if you want to get a guy, if you want to get Kelsey and Allen and Tyreek and Mahomes and Rivers or some combination of those big guys, you can do that by getting Newsome in there and getting that salary savings and just hoping that he gets some touchdowns. Or, hey, look, I had a really good score last year when I played Tevin Coleman in a game where he was slotted to be the backup, and Devontae Freeman went out with a concussion on the second series. Coleman ended up playing that whole game. He was low owned, and it just made a huge difference. So, sometimes when you're playing a lot of those lineups, that kind of contrarian thinking is important because those type of situations do happen. Like if you played Josh Jackson last week, that's kind of weird, but hey, he put up more points than most quarterbacks last week. So, there's that thought. Who's your favorite play out of the showdown slate outside of Patrick Mahomes?
I'm actually leaning towards a Rivers Allen combo somewhere is what I'm trying to sneak in. I don't see them running the ball necessarily. Phillip Rivers likes to throw the ball, and Kansas City doesn't have a great defense, although I think Barry's going to be back this game. But it's his first game back for the season, so I'm kind of thinking it's all going to be passing. So I'm looking at that combo as my primary, and then I was going to go with kickers that afford it, and then try to squeeze Mahomes in maybe as a standalone.
Sure. So what do you think about Travis Kelce?
Oh, I love Kelsey. I don't know if you can afford to put him in. Plus, he's probably going to be, other than Mahomes, the highest owned person in the game.
So, well, if that's the case, here's my case against it. If you're putting a couple lineups, it feels real bad not to have Kelce in there, especially if you're thinking Tyreek Hill is hurt. But Kelce has played 9 games against San Diego, and he's never scored a touchdown. I think they've held him under 60 yards in every single game that they've played. The Chargers are number 1 in DVOA and yards allowed against tight ends. I think it makes it pretty easy for you to make a case against him. But at the same time, he does have 37 targets the last 4 games. And 2 weeks ago, we kind of saw what Kelce can do. Like, it's one of those things that I don't have him in any of my captain spots. I wouldn't put him there. I think it's worthwhile to do so. I don't think it's a wrong construction. But when I went through and optimized 150 lineups, and I'm not playing 150 lineups, I just wanted to see how it laid. I think he ended up in the captain slot like one time. The primary guy that I got in the captain slot, and I don't necessarily agree with this, is the Damian Williams, going from 4 to, I think it's 6K in the captain slot. Again, it's one of those situations. If you think he's going to play 40, 50, 60 snaps against this Chargers defense that just gives up receptions, I don't know how you get away from that. I mean, he caught a bunch of balls against the Ravens, a couple touchdowns.
No, I don't know how you get away from that at all.
I mean, let me read these to you. These are the last couple weeks. So Raiders against the Chargers, 9 targets, 8 receptions. Broncos, 9 for 7. Cardinals, 3 for 21, which just boggles my mind. But I digress. 7 for 6 for the Steelers, and then 8 for 7 for the Bengals. Teams are averaging 9 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns on the year, and that's on top of being a middle-of-the-pack defense against the run. So it just makes a good case for him. But I'm thinking if I found him in 40 to 60% of my captain slots and 98% of my lineups, he's going to be pretty popular. It's hard for him to fail there. Not my favorite play. My favorite play is Tyreek Hill. How are you feeling about Tyreek Hill?
Have you heard any news on how bad the injury is? I haven't heard anything.
No, and I don't actually care. I like the fact that he's questionable here. I think it's going to bring down ownership. But, I mean, he was injured last week against the Ravens, and the Ravens he almost had a monster game. He was the leading receiver. I think he was 8 for 139. It could have been like 10 for 250 and 2 touchdowns if 2 of the balls just dropped in the right way. I just think he's in a position you're in a position to get Tyreek Hill on a 1-game slate at home against a team that he's historically burned at such low ownership that he's actually my favorite play in the captain slot. Him and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, those are the 2 guys. And you have to think, too, if you're thinking that the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points, but you think that Kelsey has an opportunity as almost every single time against the Chargers, where are they going to come from? It's not coming from Chris Conley. I mean, he's an option for value, but it's not going to be Calvin Benjamin. Guys,
right.
Tyreek Hill's involved.
Yeah, no, I like the Tyreek Hill play. And you're right. You go back and look, and he burns the Chargers all the time. Now, do you put him in the captain slot?
Yeah, I think you do. I think he's one of those guys. I mean, you can make a case for him in the captain slot, and then I think this is one of the only times that it becomes viable for you to go ahead and put the Chiefs defense in there, especially if you think this is going to be a shootout. So, you could put in a lineup that looks like something. Here, let's just kind of build it right now. Tyreek Hill, maybe he returns a punt return. I mean, I believe he did in week 1. Against them. I remember that I faded him in the afternoon slate. I lost a lot of money in the main slate. I was drawing dead, had no Tyreek Hill, and I felt pretty bad at that point. So I think he did return one. So you got Tyreek Hill. You're obviously going to put him with Patrick Mahomes. See, Kansas City on the defense. So if he's shooting out, you have to think that maybe Keenan Allen becomes viable, right?
Yes.
Can't put Phillip Rivers in at that point. So now you got 4,100. You got those 4 guys. Let's see. How do you feel about Calvin Benjamin? Do you have any opinions on him? I think he's supposed to be active at 2,400. Yeah.
Last I read, he wasn't going to play. He's
really?
He's going to suit up, but it says here that he's going to suit up. But what I heard this morning was he's not actually going to get in the game.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, we could go with Virgil Green. I mean, apparently Stephen A. Smith thinks he's Hunter Henry, and he's been fantastic. So let me ask you this. If you go with Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City, and Keenan Allen, what about Jacandrick West? Because if we're not putting Williams in there, West is only $800. I mean, I think they just need to target him and he hits value.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, $800.
Well, okay, so here's the 2 things. If you go with Jacandrick West, then you can get up to Justin Jackson. So he's going to get some run. Whereas if you went with like Newsome, you're down at 66. You're going with like Tyrell or Mike Williams, or even Chris Conley. Because I think another thing that you have some very distinct value in this. So I think it's okay to leave money on the table. I think it's okay to leave a lot of money on the table just to kind of differentiate yourself and be a little bit different.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go with the 2 kickers in this too. I mean, there's a lot of different options that you have because you're going with the defense for that correlation play. Again, that's for something that if you're going with a lot of lineups, I think you go with. I don't think you have one Tyreek Hill in the captain slot. I don't know if I'm putting them with the defense because, again, that injury, I don't know how many kicks he's actually going to return, if any, for that matter.
trying to get John on the call.
Can you hear me now?
There he is.
All right, my mic wasn't working. I think I got you. I only have sound in one ear, but I think it's my headset. So.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're coming in strong.
Hey. How's everybody?
Good. So we're just in the middle of a Thursday night lineup build. I don't know if you were listening.
Yeah, I heard quite a bit of the last probably 5 or 6 minutes while I was trying to make my headset work. But yeah, I had Kendrick West in my initial build for the showdown. Have we heard definitive word of Gordon yet?
Yes, he's out, and so is Spencer Ware.
Yep, and Eckler's out too, right?
Yep.
So I liked West, but I kind of went in a different direction as well. I think Joshua Jackson is going to be Dawson's Creek, baby. Justin Jackson. I think he's going to be super chalk tonight. So I like the guy they brought up to back him up as my kind of low end play, because I think he's going to get some play tonight.
Yeah, and I was saying, well, what if Jackson gets hurt? If Jackson gets hurt on a play, we don't know what kind of durability he has. What if Newsome just comes in and scores a touchdown on a goal line stand because Jackson got him down to the 1 or the 2 and he's tired, he had to tap out. Newsome comes in at 1.6 and scores a touchdown, and he's what, like 4x at that point. So
yeah, the lineup I actually ended up saving in here, and I'm just playing around with it, but I wanted to save my spot because these single entry things fill up so quickly, is I actually put Newsome in my captain spot and just trying to strike gold, basically throwing this $6 away. But if he hits, then hey, money. But you put him up in that captain spot, then you can throw Kelsey, Butker, Hill, Rivers, Mahomes all in the lineup behind him.
Yeah, but couldn't you do that if you put like Damian Williams too?
Oh, you could, definitely. But I have this gut feeling about Newsome. My gut feelings have been doing well this year so far, Chris. Come on now.
I just think that's a lot of capital that you're sacrificing at the 1.5 when you don't need to. I think you can get him into a flex spot and still get the advantage of his savings while maximizing guys that are going to be a little bit more involved. Like, look, you're looking for Newsome just to get some type of run, maybe a touchdown, a couple yards. I just can't envision him getting, 100 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns and 5 catches. And,
certainly not. It was just fun to save the lineup that way and see how many big names I could get if I put them in there, and it's pretty much all of them.
Well, and I think you can get all those big names by either putting the kicker, either one of them, or even Damian Williams in there. And again, I'm not high on Kelsey, so it's one of those things that I'm going the Tyreek Hill. I get why people are going Kelsey, but I just think this Chargers defense is going to shut down Kelsey like they have every single time. That being said, I have some exposure to him to kind of just hedge my bets there, but he just historically has not done very well. I think the two guys, realistically, I think where this slate is going to be decided is between the Williams, Mike and Tyrell. Which one of those guys is going to get into the end zone? They're the forgotten guys. They're in that middle. They're higher than Chris Conley and Demarcus Robinson, but they're not quite the high-profile guy that Keenan Allen is. So both of those guys have the ability to break the slate too.
No, I agree with that for sure, and I actually like Tyreek Hill a ton in this because I think he's going to get some of those trick play carries. They're going to add a little bit of value to him because they're hurting in the running back area.
Yeah, I think that's a good analysis. I just don't think he's going to be as highly owned because of the injury questions.
I think he's fine. I think he's going to tear it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even if he's hurt, he was fine last week for production. Even if you get limited snaps out of him, he's terrorized the Chargers over his career. So he is my Derrick Henry, and I'm going to have a little more exposure than I did to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I like it. I just can't seem to get Rivers out of this lineup. I just think that he's got to come out and dominate this game, especially with their top 2 running backs out. So I got to make sure he's in my lineup.
Well, my question is, do you have Rivers in lineups without Mahomes?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Well, and I wrote it in the article, is a lot of my lineups that had Rivers in the captain slot didn't look that much different than Mahomes in the captain slot, just because of the way that the value was. I just don't think he has the same type of ceiling. It could be because Eckler and Gordon have gobbled up red zone touches and converted those to touchdown without him having the ability to throw all of those. But the highest total that he's had of fantasy points is like 29, and like I think Patrick Mahomes has scored 29 points on no passes this year. So for the just small difference in price with all the value that's out there, I like Mahomes over Rivers, but I love putting them together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's every build I've done today has had both of them together.
Well, and I'll tell you, the pricing on FanDuel is much sharper than it is on DraftKings, as it typically is. But they've got Damian Williams up at 10-5.
Yeah, I like Damian Williams. I'm in on him. I just have this gut feeling about Newsome. I just don't know why. I think that he's going to come in and take more of that Eckler role over, and they're going to try to do Jackson in the Gordon role, and I think that he's got an opportunity to play. But he hasn't been in a lot of my lineups that I've messed around with today, but I do like him.
Well, what do you think he's going to be owned? Like, what do you think his percentage will be?
I mean, I think it's going to be fairly low. I don't think anybody's really on him. I think it's going to be incredibly low. Well, I think everybody's on Williams more than they're on in Sarkandrick West. I think both of those guys will be more owned than Newsome.
So, I mean, I think if you're putting in 150 lineups and you think he's going to be 10% owned, and you have a feeling like that, I think where do you go? Maybe like 30%, 40%? I don't think you need to take much more of a stand than that, because I think that differentiates you. And you can even scale that down to 10 or 20 lineups. I like him too. I will tell you that he popped in a lot of my optimizations. Let's take a look. I'm going to pull it up right now. I'm excited for this slate. I think this is going to be a good game. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. Probably will feel a little bit different halfway through the second quarter, but
sure. Yeah, well, I'm thinking about it. I need to make sure I took Gordon out of all my lineups, because I was running a little bit late today. Wife had some things to take care of, so I was doing all the kid duty today, so including the kid duty, and had to run a little bit late here. So I don't want to have a issue like I had a couple of weeks ago. Let me take him out of there while we're thinking about it.
I've got him in 34% of. If I was doing 150, just optimizing off of projection, I have them in one captain slot, 51 out of 150 lineups.
Right.
So that's less than Tyreek Hill, Justin Jackson, Butker, Rivers, Kelsey, Allen, Mahomes, and Williams.
Sure. So I'm looking at a season long here, so I'm going to take him out. Do I just automatically plug and play Justin Jackson into his spot, or are you considering maybe throwing like a Kiki Kuti in there? Or do you just roll with Jackson, assuming he's going to get at least a 55 to 60% share tonight?
I mean, are those the only two options?
Yeah, really. That's all I have. Season long league. Everybody else is. I have Spencer Ware, of course, and Gordon on that league. So.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's my flex spot. So I mean, I have Mixon and Chubb as set up there. So I think I go ahead and just roll with Jackson and cross my fingers.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, but man, the Jets are terrible against slot receivers. Mm-hmm. Have been all year. It's just like Kute feels like he's always hurt. He just feels like one of those guys that just has nagging injuries and can't get over him.
Pretty much. I just have held on to him because when he does actually step up and play, he gets those 3 or 4 like 30-yard bomb attempts every time.
Yeah, well, no, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I am, but I think it helps Deshaun Watson and the Houston offense as a whole to have that guy that can stretch the field even from the slot position, mm-hmm. And makes them a very viable play on the the Saturday night contest.
Sure. And then here's one last option. I'm just looking on the waiver wire here. I could throw Kenneth Dixon in there, which is a big guy I'm on in my GPP lineups this week.
I mean, I like Kenneth Dixon. He can catch the ball too. That's another advantage that he has. I don't think Gus the Bus can do it. I think he's starting to take over that role. But again, it's like you're getting a 50% timeshare, but at the same time, you're getting a 50% timeshare on Jackson, maybe, you know?
Oh, absolutely. So that's my question. I got to make this decision in 45 minutes. So if it's you and you're playing in your playoffs and you got to get this win, and on top of that, it's your boss, and damn it, do you hate paying your boss fantasy money? I mean, I do. So I got to win. So upside, Jackson or Dixon? Because I'm pretty happy with my team. This is a 12-team league, and my team is Rivers, Evans, Allen, Mixon, Chubb, Kittle, and my flex spot, I just have to choose between Jackson or Dixon.
Oh, man, let's take a look. I mean,
Yahoo and ESPN are both favoring Jackson, but I always take their projections with a grain of salt, of course.
I mean, ESPNs are done by Mike Clay. They're done pretty well. But, I mean, that's a median projection. Yeah, I'm trying to pull. My model really likes Gus Edwards.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I get it. And Gus is more explosive than Dixon, but I think that they're realizing they can't feed Gus that many balls, and Dixon's a little bit more durable and's got a little bit more veteran presence. So I think they're trying to keep Dixon involved and trying to keep they want to change up their look, because they don't want to get every time they have these kind of RPO offenses and everything just starts leading more and more and more towards these read action runs, it gets predictable, and defenses are too good. Linebackers are too quick. Hell, defensive ends are too quick. And I think they have to continue to evolve the offense that they're in, because they're just not going to fool anybody continuing to do this option with him and Gus Edwards. So I think they have to set up in a few traditional looks, and they got to run the ball up the gut, and they got to keep it off balance, and they got to force Jackson to throw the ball. So I think you're going to see a little bit heavier mix of Dixon this week.
I think Dixon's the better back. I think the durability is probably, to be seen. I mean, he's been hurt his entire career.
Sure.
I like Dixon, but the problem is that he's only getting 17 to 20 snaps. Even if you see an increase, maybe you get in 10 extra snaps, you're at 30. I would think Jackson's going to get 40 to 50 tonight, just depending on how many plays they end up running. So he's just going to have that better opportunity. I think you stick with Jackson just because of the unknown. I think kind of Dixon makes more sense on a daily level, from a GPP $3,500 DraftKings.
Dixon's my guy in a lot of my GPPs this week. But I think you're right. I think the pace of the game, the amount of snaps played, and the urgency of the game, the Chargers are going to have to score to win this game. They're going to have to keep up, where Baltimore can play the possession game if Tampa Bay continues to be prone to turnovers.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you're going to want to see Rivers get some easy looks. He's had a problem at Arrowhead over the last 4 starts that he's had. So, getting a running game going or a little dump offs will certainly help.
And here's my conundrum, though, on this team. Though it's served me well all year, I have Rivers, Allen, and Jackson.
I don't think that's a problem, though. I mean, the implied total on this game is huge. I think the sharp money is coming on the under, but
yeah, it's going to be cold, and the Chargers historically don't play well in the cold.
But they're going to score 2 touchdowns, right?
At least, yeah.
Okay, so if they're going to score 2 touchdowns, one of those is probably going to go to Keenan Allen, right?
Right.
At least Jackson, he can slide in.
Yeah, I think I just got to not look at it as a whole and look at it individually, and I think Jackson's the answer.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
Well, you want to cover anything else on this Thursday Night Showdown? Was there anything else you wanted to cover? I did not catch your breakdown. I'll have to read that, of course. I was driving all over Daddy Daycare. So, but I appreciate you doing that, man, and I hope we see more of that. And I really want to get with Mark and some of these other shows, and I don't know. We'll have to talk to these guys, and maybe the Wednesday night guys will switch with us, but because I really want to get Adam involved in these golf when it starts up too. So, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, we got a couple more Thursday nights to go, huh?
I think this is the last Thursday night game, actually.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean Thursday nights. A couple more showdowns to go.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so I want to see I want to see some winnings tonight, man. I've won once in Showdown where I 10 times my money. I don't know if you're on that listening at that time, but Mark and I were talking about it. It was a 49ers game, and I can't remember what night it was.
It was Nick Mullins' first game.
It was Nick Mullins' first game, yeah, versus Oakland, right?
Yeah.
And at the very last minute, I felt like I had too much money left over in my budget, so I swapped San Francisco's out of the captain spot and put Derek Carr in, and went from $500 winning on a dollar bet to $10.
Well, I will tell you, last week, I highly touted Derrick Henry. I thought he was a guy that could break the slate. I thought it was a great play. Somehow he didn't make it into my captain spot, and I'm not really sure how that happened. And after he broke that long run, I was just staring at it, and I was like, I'd be in first place right now by myself.
Right.
And I felt sick.
Yep. Definitely.
Thankfully, it did not end that way.
Yeah. No, it was, I mean, he put up enough points. I'm sure he won you some money regardless of where he was at. But, I got 6 of 6 of my teams into the playoffs this year, and I got 5 of 6 through to the next round. The only one I lost by 23 points, and the other guy had Derrick Henry in at the last minute for one of his other injured players. And in that league, Henry scored 53. So even if he would have had a 23-point game, which nobody besides maybe you was talking about, I still would have won. And so I was still okay with that. You can't help those freak accidents, these freak performances. It just who knew that Derrick Henry as a backup flex option was going to break the NFL rushing record?
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it in retrospect this week. It makes sense to have these big bruising guys, the bigger, more physical running backs, put in work in December. I like Derrick Henry this week. Jordan Howard is a guy that these are people you don't want to tackle when it's cold outside. I don't even want to go outside. I live in Florida. I don't want to go outside when it's cold. It's like 50, 60 degrees out here. And, my wife's busting out all the winter wear. So I certainly wouldn't want to tackle, a guy like Derrick Henry. Neither did Jacksonville when it's cold out. I will tell you, before the show, or earlier in the show before you came, I didn't make it in past the playoffs, the first round, because every single one of my playoff matches, somehow I played against Amari Cooper.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Well, that league with Henry, he also happened to have Adams and Elliott on his team. So he had some solid players, but that Henry performance really put him over the top. But yeah, I mean, Cooper was insane. Cooper single-handedly saved my DFS week last week. I was just below the pay line in all my 50-50s, and then that last touchdown put me right over the top, which was awesome. And I'm kind of thinking about going back to him again. But I'm with you on these big bruising guys. I was sitting at lunch today and flipping through guys, and unfortunately, my job is extremely busy leading up to the holidays, so it's difficult to get too much time. But I just kept going back to Jordan Howard this week. Just like you said, it's cold. They're going to pound the ball. I just love him. And what was he on DK, like $4,000, 4,200?
Let me find him.
He's low. He's very low. He just had his first 100-yard game. I mean, he's almost touching the ball 20 times a game. These are the kind of guys that you want at the end of the season when you got guys like Tariq Cohen, who's been getting beat up, guys like Kamara, who take a lot of hits in those short passing games. These big bruisers are definitely people that I like near the end of the season.
See, the thing about Jordan Howard, though, is I think him and Tariq Cohen can both be successful in the same game. I think
Absolutely.
Tariq Cohen just provides a lot to that offense in the skill positions that they don't have. Taylor Gabriel is all fine and dandy, and so is Allen Robinson, but they're not top-tier guys. So having that extra guy out of the backfield that's a little bit more dynamic, I don't know if I'd play them together, but I think they both can be successful. So if you like Cohen in some of your lineups, you can like Howard as well. Let's see. Yeah, he's done at 3,900.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, he's way down there. I mean, I've liked him for the last couple of weeks, and he's definitely gotten the volume the last few weeks to put up big numbers. He just has been missing that end zone.
Yeah, the only guy that's really around him that I like, looking up and down this, maybe at 4,200, I really like Tevin Coleman. But I mean, the other guys he's surrounded by are Giovanni Bernard, Rod Smith, T.J. Yeldon, Jalen Richard, Garrett Blunt, Chase Edmonds, Naheem Hines.
You get Dixon down there too, but that's a little lower. But yeah, and Tevin Coleman's an interesting guy. He's somebody that I keep looking at and then just keep looking at his game log, and I just can't bring myself to do it. But we all know he's explosive enough to make those plays, and they're a little bit more beat up. I heard Jones has a cold on top of his injuries, and he could need to step up a little bit this week, and it's really interesting to look at a guy who could see, what's he getting, like 70% of the snaps at running back with them right now?
Yeah.
Edo Smith isn't Edo, well, I think he got cleared today, but he was on the injury report all week.
I mean, the problem with Tevin Coleman for me is I played him a lot earlier in the year, and it cost me a lot of money, and they were good spots too. But he is popping in the model. He's just. This is a great spot.
I subscribe to Roto Grinders, just the 1 week Yahoo service, just because of this millionaire or $1 million pot tournament coming up here, and I was flipping through their models, and they are just in love with the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona's been terrible against the run. Here, let me tell you this. So they've given up 16 rushing touchdowns, which is the most in the league. They've given up 1,618 yards, which is the most. And then on top of that, it's not as if they shut anybody down in the receiving game as running back. They've had running backs targeted 83 times, 69 receptions for 570 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's more of a middle of the pack result there, but the actual rushing success is what makes them attractive. The other thing that makes them attractive is that even if Julio Jones is fine and plays, you would imagine that he's going to see a lot of Patrick Peterson. And if he's not, then, Budda Baker, that secondary in Arizona is underrated. I don't think Peterson's been shadowing, but still, it just feels like one of those things where he should get the ball a lot. My concern would be that Atlanta, what are they playing for?
Right. Well, I don't know. What's Coleman's contract looking like? Does he need to come out and make a statement at the end of the year?
I think he already made his statement that he's not a starting running back. Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't been great this year. Hey guys, just a quick couple of things, point of interest. Please go ahead and check out imabeerhound.com. They were our website sponsor of the year. Please check out our website at draftforupside.com. Draft is like draft beer, DRAUGHT. It is in beta mode. We'll have it updated and all kinds of fun stuff for the beginning of football season, and hopefully get some nice baseball and other content in there as well. And then I just posted a link. Our boy Chris Prince, beer makers fan of Roto Grinders, is up for an FSTA award for his video series, the Fantasy Bar Beer 6-pack. And I just put the link up there. If everybody could take just a quick minute and click it and vote for Chris, I would appreciate it. He would appreciate it. And we love our boy over there at Roto Grinders.
Yes, one of my favorite analysts. Him and Dr. Roto are the two I like the most.
And of course, Chris is a huge fan of my beer, so that's always helpful.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, Mark, I'm going to take off for just another minute. My headset is not working on one side, and it's driving me insane. So I'm going to go steal my son's Xbox One, and I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
All right. So, Chris, I guess, is there any NBA advice why Danger's going to the bathroom there?
Man, the last couple of days have just been the worst ever. There were just so many injuries, so many crazy things. There's poor reporting of injuries and people that we're not getting the news on. It's just been absolutely disgusting. And I need to take a break from it because it's not been working well for me. However, tonight my favorite play is Nikola Vucevic from the Magic. So any lineups that you're going to build, I would build around him. I do expect him to be pretty chalky, but at the same time, he's just in such a great matchup. He's a great fantasy point per minute. He should get 32 minutes or so today against a Bulls team that's giving up, on average, 4.2 points over expectation. By far, he's the best center. A little contrarian if you're playing on DK, you can play 2. If you're on FanDuel, you can only play the 1. But I like Mohamed Bamba in both of those, in both sites as well as a backup. Maybe Vooch gets hurt or gets into some type of foul trouble. What about NHL? So you've been having a lot of NHL and you're building these teams and you're showing us these success. I mean, what are we looking at? How do you start your process with that?
Well, I can tell you my process was worked out really good so far because Jeff Skinner's already got a goal tonight, so he's got 17 points already.
Hey, what did I tell you yesterday? I said you got to share this with me so I can make money off things I know nothing about. And
the game of the week just started. Toronto at Tampa Bay, and this is the equivalent of tonight's Thursday night football game. I'm expecting it. The over under is 6.5 goals. They're expecting this thing to just be a shootout.
Nice.
However, I do a lot of. I enjoy Corsi stats and Corsicas and stuff like that. And so the first thing I do is go through all the Vegas odds. I see where the money's going, who's playing what. Then I'll go through Corsi, and there's a nice site called Corsica that compiles all the stats into a nice format that you can download into a spreadsheet and manipulate how you want. But then, I just look for relationships. Like, speaking of the Toronto Tampa Bay game, everybody's expecting it to be a shootout. So people are either avoiding the game 100% in fantasy, or they're stacking this game completely. But if you look at some of the stats, Toronto over their last 6 games are the worst team for defense in the league. They're ranked 31st in goals against and shots allowed. So in Tampa, conversely, is number 1 on the power play, number 1 5-on-5. So I've actually played a lineup that is all Tampa because I think Tampa's going to kind of run away with this thing tonight. Toronto's defense has just been terrible.
So let me share this. Let me see how you think about this, because this is something that I kind of do in NBA as well. Is I'll take a look at a sample size. So, for example, the other night in NHL, I broke down a 5-game sample size, and I looked at points versus position, center, right wing, left wing, and defense. And then I compared those points allowed over the entire season and tried to find some consistency in the people that popped up. Why are they there? Who are they playing? Because especially on that 5-game sample size, that's where I'm trying to find the consistency between the two. Like the Wild popped on the 5-game sample size, but I knew they played 3 games in 4 nights, a back-to-back, and they just got blown out in one of those games. And so, of course, their fantasy points allowed were going to be through the roof in those situations. And you know that I play a Minnesota line every single time, so it was killing me those nights. Just picked the wrong night the other night or the wrong line when they scored 7 goals. But I do that, and it's very similar to what I do in NBA, just to kind of find additional points where some of the other data might not indicate. So, I look up assists, blocks, 3-point percentage, free throws, and just trying to find those anomalies and find those attack points, and then the players on those teams that are going to be able to attack it. So I think the other night, the Red Wings popped up as pretty bad against left wings. So, it was really expensive to get a lot of the Capitals players in there, and it really handicapped what you were going to do with the rest of your lineup. But I wanted to at least prioritize getting Ovechkin in, because he plays left wing and he's really good and he's really expensive. So, and I think that was the night that he scored 3 goals. So that's part of what I do look for. Because I don't watch a lot of hockey, I have to just rely on the statistics and the analytics behind it and those types of things.
Yeah, and I do a little bit of that, not anywhere near as much as you're doing, but I am leaning towards that now, especially for these secondary players. I'm finding it fairly easy to find the right player on the top two lines for any team, but where do you find that third line guy? You know what I mean? And that's where those analytics come in really well for stuff like that.
Well, and the other thing that I try and do in sports that I'm not super familiar with, I did this during EuroLeague last year, and I almost took down like the largest GPP for a night in EuroLeague basketball. I look for guys that have and try and understand what their median line is going to be like. So if they typically score around 15 points, but they have the ability to get to like a 40-point ceiling, that's somebody that I'm looking at as opposed to somebody that's going 47. I want that consistency through all of my players, and then I hope a couple of them really hit their ceilings, and hopefully the consistency and the ceilings all come together and I don't get a 4-game. It happens, but that's something that I look at. So like for hockey, the guy that I recommended in our chat yesterday, I looked and 83% of his games he's met or exceeded his expectations. So he was a super good play in my opinion. He far exceeded anything that I thought he could. But like a guy that's on the later slate today, the Panthers, Matheson, I think he's a defenseman. Maybe that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
He's a guy that if you look at him, he is a guy that I'm trying to pull it up and it's loading. 4,100, 71% of the time he is meeting his expectation. He has no duds, and then 14% of the time he has a. So,
yeah, which makes him a great value play.
Yeah, and if you look at him over the month, he's 60% exceeded in the last 10, 58% over the past month, and then I guess over the season it's not as good, but recently he's turned on. So it's just identifying those trends for me. Those are some of the things that I look for.
Yeah, and that's exactly how you win this stuff. Is you need to find those comparisons like that. Now, are you pulling this down into your own little spreadsheet and manipulating the data?
Yeah, I mean, on some of those, I'm pulling some of this from Fantasy Labs, or I just look at box scores in some of those sports. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And it also, I do have a model that goes into it with Fantasy Labs that looks at shots, block shots, because I think a lot of those cheap guys, you can get a couple blocks at some place that you can get pretty strong as well, especially on those cheaper end defensemen. In the past, that's something that I targeted when, these guys aren't on the power play. They're not getting a lot of scoring plays. So they need to be able to produce points some way. So if they can block some shots, they can produce some value as well.
Right.
I will be right back, guys.
That's fine.
Step away for 1 second.
I think Adam just joined us. Adam, are you on?
Yeah, what's up, fellas?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. I guess sometimes life gets in the way there. You got to run out for a minute.
Yeah, that's been going on this whole show tonight. It's like all of us have been running in and out. This is one of our classic shows.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just glad that we have so many hosts.
Yeah, we need to. Usually this happens when we're all in the studio messed up and drinking way too many samples. But
I've gotten to run to the bathroom every 5 minutes.
Yeah. Tonight is just life is getting in everybody's way.
Right. A true story. I did forget to share, my friend, that I am on a Founders Porter kick. This beer is really a absolute perfect example of the style. It doesn't get any better. I could drink it all day, every day. I wish that I could make brownies that tasted exactly like it. I just want to eat and drink this beer morning, noon, and night.
Is the play on Founders all day intentional there?
Possibly. Hey, Mark, speaking of that, have you been following some of this drama in the industry the last couple of days?
Which drama?
Well, first, the renaming of crack fries because it's insensitive to the drug epidemic, which, in my opinion, I don't really care either way. It was kind of a lowbrow, insensitive name to begin with, but they've owned it for 13 years. So, hey, whatever. I don't really care either way. Call them whatever you want. I think they're delicious, and I don't care what they call them. I'm going to eat them anyways. And then, tongue-in-cheek wise, a gentleman in the fringe industry in the hop business posted a fake article, a fake headline article saying that Founders was changing the name of All Day IPA because it's insensitive to alcoholics. Or something along those lines. And MLive picked it up as an actual article and spread it around saying Founders did that.
It was hilarious, too, because if you just read the headline of the article, you can tell it's a joke.
Oh, absolutely. But unfortunately, an actual news outlet picked it up. And so then it actually became an issue.
So it was like his version of an Onion article, and MLive was like, all right, let's go with it.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct what happened.
Because it starts off with like a quote from a Founders rep that says like, well, we named it All Day IPA because with the low alcohol, you can drink multiple of them. We didn't actually expect people to drink it all day long, but apparently they do.
Right. It was a total Onion article, and it got blown way out of proportion. And unfortunately, because it was funny, but then when MLive picked it up and somebody actually reported it as real news, it quickly became not funny. As somebody who's in charge of PR for a company, I understand.
Wow.
Yeah, not cool. Not cool. Adam, are you drinking today or what? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm actually out of beer.
Oh.
But I have a little whiskey, so everything's okay.
Well, this is what you got to do. You got to call me when you're out of beer, and then I will do beer sales in your area, and then I will drop beer off to you, and then that problem will be solved.
Yeah. What's your minute plan like? How many minutes do you have on your phone to take these calls?
Unlimited and paid by the company. It's totally fine.
Well, all right, then.
I see you went out to Topgolf.
Oh, Topgolf was awesome. Yeah, it was super cool.
Heck yeah, I know there's a bunch around the country, but this is the first one in the Midwest that I'm aware of, right?
There's one in Chicago.
Is there one in Chicago?
Yeah.
Indianapolis as well, but they're...
Oh, well, then I don't... you call me Stephen
It's
A.
the
Smith.
first
I have
one
no idea what I'm talking about.
It's the first one in Michigan.
Hey, how do you guys like Hunter Henry tonight, by the way?
Oh, man, love him. Absolutely. Lock and load.
I don't think he's going to drop a single pass.
No, I don't think so either. I think he's going to be perfect.
No, Topgolf was sweet. It's really not geared towards like serious golfers. It's just a fun
certainly
atmosphere. Not. It's almost like bowling lanes next to each other for golfers. There's like racks of just normal beginner clubs like sitting next to every bay, and there's music blaring and TVs, and it's awesome.
Absolutely, and beer service and everything. It's fantastic. So I went out to Beaverton, Oregon, and I was a groomsman in one of my good buddies' weddings, and that was where we decided to do his bachelor party. And his little brother, who is not so little, he's about 280 pounds, and he is about 35, and he has some mental handicap issues, and he actually absolutely murdered us because he figured out a nice lazy swing would go straight into that first target right off the edge of the bay, and literally got 6 points every swing. And what are you going to do? He beat us handily because, of course, all of us are like, nah, man, we got to go for the 225 target. Oh, man, we got to hit that back net for the 20-point bonus.
It's like going for the corners, the back corners in skee ball. It's like a low percentage shot.
Yep. But yeah, he absolutely whipped us, but we had so much fun. I mean, we went with him, who's a little physical and a little mentally handicapped. We went with a buddy that literally plays no sports, and everybody had an absolute blast. What a great way to just spend a day.
Yeah, for sure. It can get a little pricey, I'm sure, if you're there all day, but
oh yeah, it adds up quick. It definitely adds up quick. But what we ought to do is get the draft for Upside football draft and have it there next year, broadcast live and play around. So,
absolutely. Sounds like a good thing.
We got to hook up with somebody's marketing out there, and maybe we can. Maybe the show will have enough clout next year that they'll like comp us a room or something. Maybe, huh?
Yeah. We'll see if we can get that big.
You got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. So, what do you want to talk about, Adam? You have some topics you want to jump on board and take the lead?
I don't know. I mean,
you want to get into football?
Golf is always top of mind for me, but I guess that's still a few weeks off, so we can't get super excited about it yet. I'm still laughing about the Stephen A. Smith thing. I just watched it just now and showed it to my dad, who I went to Top Golf with.
It's pretty good.
And he doesn't follow football at all. He goes, "Wait, this guy doesn't play?" I go, "No, this guy hasn't been on the roster all year." Talking about Derek Johnson.
Right.
And he goes, Hunter Henry hasn't played it down all year? I go, "Nope."
Nope. Trouble.
Nope. Yeah,
unfortunately, the dude's got such an ego. He's just never going to just be like, "Hey, man, you know what? I phoned it in. I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared, and I phoned it in."
He doubled down too. He said he was thinking of Virgil Green,
right? Yeah.
instead of Hunter Henry. Like, that made it any better.
I mean, at least you could have said Antonio Gates. I mean, and then there was at least a touchdown involved.
Well, in his quote, he's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about what Hunter Henry's been doing all year." And even if he was thinking about Virgil Green, then has Virgil Green done much this year?
Nothing. Even if he was talking about Antonio Gates has done nothing all year.
Right. He's older than I am.
I wish Will Kane was on that show, because they didn't really put his feet to the fire, but Will Kane would have just lit him up for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of see the video I was watching. They zoomed in on Teddy Bruschi's face, and
that was awesome.
What in the world?
That was fan-freaking-tastic. I loved it so much.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's all I got for football. Tonight's game should be fun, though. I'm looking forward to that. You guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got it queued up here on the TV so I can watch while we go instead of not knowing what we're doing. So before the game starts this time and not after the game, let's see. What was last week's? I got my last week's sheet here. What was the final score of Thursday night last week?
30-9.
30-9.
It's not the game.
30-9. Well, the closest person was Chris at 24-13. So, Chris, kudos to you. Gold star. All right. Let's make picks here. All right. Score and winner. Chris, you won last week, so you go first.
34-24 Chiefs.
Mark.
28-24 Chiefs.
Adam.
I'm trying to rethink it because I was thinking exactly 34-24 Chiefs. Chris, I don't know you, but I hate you. 37-24 Chiefs.
You know I got to be contrarian, right? You know that's got to happen.
Yeah, I worked for you a couple weeks ago.
You're going to take like 3-9?
I got 24-21 Chargers.
You're not going to do
the San Diego Chargers or the LA Chargers?
I'm going to go with the San Diego Chargers.
You got to do like the Price is Right, so it's like you need to go 38-25.
All right. Yeah, highest without going over, right?
Yeah.
I like it. All right, that's out of the way. So, hey, we haven't even had a full hour to talk DFS lineups on DraftKings at all on this show because we've always had so many guests and so much going on. But guess what? We got an hour. We can roll. Do you want to stick with DraftKings or do we want to attack the Yahoo $1 million guaranteed complete overlay guaranteed game at $20 a team, right? Is it $20 a team or $10 a team? $10 a team? $20 a team, 10 team max, right?
Yes, I'm super excited about this.
So you want to break down Yahoo instead then?
Yeah, let's start with that, and we'll probably have time to run into the DraftKings. Adam, did you want to talk golf at all or no?
If you guys want to do the breakdown on the Yahoo, we only got 30 minutes till kick, right, or less than that.
So the Yahoo is for Sunday and Monday, so we don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually the Yahoo one is Sunday all day, so it's it includes the late game, and that's what makes it interesting.
Right, the late game is fun.
I missed the Sunday Night Hammer on FanDuel and DraftKings.
That was my favorite, and it was so much fun because you either took advantage of that and got to watch your points rocket, or you just completely faded the game and waited for that bust. That was awesome.
I have a very sad Sunday night memory, but that's fun.
Yeah, so since this has the late game in it, unlike the main slate at FanDuel or DraftKings, it allows you to play the Rams.
Right. I love it. Goff is going to have a huge comeback, right? I mean, and then how do you feel about the Rams defense knowing Nick Foles is in? Does that make you want to even consider it, or are they still dangerous even with Foles back there?
I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't. He's okay. I don't think he's going to be horrible or anything, but the Rams defense just isn't. I don't know. I don't feel like it's as good as everybody thinks it is.
The secondary struggled for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's as bad as everybody thinks it is. I think it keep Talib, keeping them on sides. I mean, one of the big problems with Marcus Peters was he's not a guy that can shadow. He can't go on both sides. He's played a lot better since Talib's got there. There's not a lot of guys on the Eagles that are really going to stretch the field. So, I mean, I like the Rams here. It's going to be warm. I think Todd Gurley is just going to blow them up. I think Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think the Rams are going to come angry.
Oh, I absolutely hope so, because I won despite Jared Goff's negative 1.3 points last week, and I need redemption.
Yeah, currently the over-under is at 52, and the Rams are favored by 12.5.
All right.
So 32 implied total. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking. One of the first people I threw in my lineup in this game was Robert Woods. I think Goff is going to throw 4 touchdowns in this game. It's just a matter of picking out who he throws them to. So, Kittle and Woods are on the top of my list.
Well, the other thing about Goff, too, is that I think last year he was better on the road, but this year he's been markedly better at home, averaging, I think, 25 fantasy points versus 17 on the road. I think that this is a situation where he has a opportunity to do a lot, but I think that they're going to go to Todd Gurley and go heavy to him too. So it's one of those things where if Philadelphia's corners weren't as bad as they were, I probably would be all in on the Gurley aspect of it. But I don't think that Gurley and Goff and then one of the wide receivers is a bad way to go either, because the correlation that Gurley has, not so much this year, but last year was positive with them.
Yeah, and Gurley catches enough out of the backfield that you could easily do a triple stack like that.
He's very expensive, though.
Yeah.
It is, and I don't know how much experience you guys have on Yahoo, but their pricing is completely different from DraftKings or FanDuel. And I get surprised sometimes at why this player is here compared to there. I had an example too.
I'm just getting Yahoo open here. I know that it's a $200 budget, so it's much different. Indeed, very, very different. I'm just starting to load in here. Like I said, I was busy all day with the children today. Darn it! My advice to everybody: don't have children, and definitely don't have 3 children. What's wrong with me? But I haven't even looked at it. PPR, non-PPR, half PPR. What's the breakdown, Mark?
That's a good question.
Aha! Yes. See, we gotta know these things. So that's the first thing we got to figure out, because we all know FanDuel is half PPR, DraftKings is full point PPR, and this does make a difference.
It's half point PPR. I got it pulled up right now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other weird oddities in there?
Nothing that I've seen yet.
Any large yardage bonuses or anything like that?
No.
Negative points for an interception. Is it 2 or is it 1?
I don't think we have any argument with this. -1 for interception, 4 points for a passing touchdown.
So it sounds like it's exactly like FanDuel and mirrors it. I will tell you that I do have bargain ratings that compare them price to other sites. Your top running back that's a supreme bargain would be Saquon Barkley, David Johnson, Leonard Fournette, Aaron Jones, and Tariq Cohen is a huge value on there. Todd Gurley is basically rated as neutral.
Interesting.
Yeah, I picked up RotoGrinder's 1 week software for Yahoo just because I'd never played Yahoo and I wanted to get a little insight into it. Which, if anybody feels like doing that, you can get it's on sale right now through like a PayPal deposit for $6.99. You can pull up all of the premium RotoGrinder stuff for Yahoo for just week 15.
I'll tell you, just looking at it, where the pricing really looks like it's supremely different is going to be in the wide receiver position. Almost every one of these guys is rated out as a bargain and an extreme bargain. Exceptions are Devontae Adams, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Lockett, Doug Baldwin, Larry Fitzgerald, and Sterling Shepard. Aside from that, everybody else in the top end of the salary structure, your Antonio Brown, Adam Thielen, Julio, Beckham, Juju, Robert Woods, Diggs, all these guys are rating out as 98, 85, 95% value. So I think you're going to find a lot more of that value at that wide receiver position. Just how are you going to differentiate this? I think the advantage that you have is that a lot of the people that are going to be playing in this are going to be people that aren't necessarily familiar with the salary structure. So it's trying to find those inadequacies in it to take advantage of.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, Yahoo designed this to try to bring people into their DFS game who were knocked out of the playoffs, when they're season longs.
Who's got playoff matchups this weekend?
Oh, I got 5 of them, baby. 5 out of 6 moved on.
You degenerate, you. I love it.
I know. And I only lost the other one because I lost by 23 points, and they had Derrick Henry on that squad, and he scored 53. So if Derrick Henry would have scored 29 points and had a killer week, I still would have won. But he had to set a record, didn't he?
Which still would have been his season high by a long shot, because I drafted him in like 2 of my 3 leagues.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I got 2 out of 3. I got 2 out of 3 in the playoffs. Sweating it out.
Yeah. So I started my Yahoo lineup with Jacksonville. So I think Jacksonville this week, I think Leonard Fournette's just going to go off. So I started my lineup with Fournette in the flex, and Jacksonville's defense is a running back defense correlation. And then I put Robert Woods in there as my first receiver. Now, this creates the need for some value. What are you guys thinking of some value picks out there, maybe at quarterback or running back?
Well, I'll tell you, we were talking about it earlier, and I just keep going back down to that bottom end because I just like the usage that I think that Kenneth Dixon's going to get. And while you were gone there, Mark, Chris and I were talking about kind of a little bit of love for Jordan Howard. As the weather gets colder, Chicago likes to pound the ball more and more and more. And I think both those guys are going to get, maybe not Dixon. He's got a little bit more share with Gus, but I think you're looking at Howard having another 20, 22 carries.
I don't hate that at all. I think that's a good value.
I just like bringing up Howard because Mark hates him.
Yeah.
Let's go with Jordan Howard then.
Well, I think Tevin Coleman at $13 is a supreme value there. He's cheaper than Kenneth Dixon, Deion Lewis. I think Jeffrey Wilson, he's priced about the same spot right there. That's $14. So you got some value there. And then you got Jordan Howard at $15. And I think, I think for this, I think the 2 spots where you're going to see the highest ownership is going to be the Pittsburgh-New England game. Samuels at $16 presents a value. But I think the other place that ownership is going to go to is going to be that Sunday night game, just because it's an opportunity to play that we don't have right now on the other sites. And as a result, I think people are going to kind of flock to that. Plus, it's a great matchup. So, I think you're going to see concentrated ownership in those 2 games, that and Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Amari Cooper has just become an absolute target hog. I mean, Dak just is gushing about him in interviews throughout the week, too. So he's just going to keep getting the ball thrown at him. Indianapolis's defense has been pretty decent. They are at home, but I don't see anybody else getting any targets in that. Since Amari Cooper's come on, it's basically been Cooper and Zeke show and then nothing else.
Yeah, and Cooper... go ahead.
I was going to say, don't forget about Michael Gallup, okay?
You love the Gallup. You love him. You love
It's going
him.
to happen.
I love it too. I like Gallup too, and I had him in a couple of lineup builds on DraftKings GPPs. I just have your voice in my head every time I stare through these lineups.
He's going to be galloping into the end zone. Was that his quote?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it a lot. I can't get away from Gronk. I every lineup I build, I just can't. I just don't like any of the bargain tight ends, and Gronk has just become a bigger target the last few weeks. Pittsburgh has issues versus the tight end, and he just loves playing against Pittsburgh, and I just can't get off of him. He's $18 on this format, which is a little high than I really want to pay, but I like him a little better on the DraftKings side. But I'm looking through here, and yeah, Vance McDonald in that same game could be okay, but he's only a $3 savings. Cameron Brate is an interesting play there, but I don't really like any of the big bargain tight ends this week.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh is 31st DVOA against tight ends, and they can't cover anybody on crossing routes. They take away the outside, and they've done this all the time. If you go back and look at the last 4 New England games, Gronk and Edelman just ate them alive, just going across the middle, and they just will not change. So
yeah,
I think
I have a
both
couple of DraftKings builds where I have Gronk and Edelman in quite a few GPPs.
Yeah, I think that's a great play.
I think Edelman's a better play on DraftKings than he is in a half-point PPR. You're taking away, one of the things that he does very well, which is catch the ball and accrues a lot of points. He's not a guy that's always a huge red zone target. He does score, and he does provide the upside when he does that. But they just have so many weapons there that I don't know if he's the right play on like a FanDuel or a Yahoo here. And I did pull up the Jared Cook last week had like 10 receptions, or the tight ends for the Raiders had 10 receptions for 148 yards. It looks like the week before that, when they played the Chargers, it looks like Hunter Henry might have been catching the ball because there was no tight end catches. But the Broncos had 5, Panthers had 4, and then the Falcons and the Ravens earlier in the year both had 10. I mean, massive yardage when they're playing against competent tight ends. Some of these games that they played, they just didn't play against anybody, or they didn't have tight ends. So I think Gronk's a good play. I like him a little bit more just because he's a little bit bigger of a red zone target.
Mm-hmm. So I agree with that. And like last week when we started talking about tight ends, and I just said Kelsey's my guy. This week it's Gronk. I'm not really even looking anywhere else. I could be talking to Vance McDonald in that same game, but Gronk's my guy. And I don't know. Anybody else have any other tight end thoughts?
Vernon Davis.
Yeah. I love me some VD.
The old man can still run. Oh, don't say that ever
again. You better
again.
go get that checked.
Oh, man. That's one of the saddest days. So I'm a diehard 49ers fan. That was like one of my saddest days ever was when Vernon Davis left the team. I have jersey for him. I have my kids have jerseys for him. He's my guy. So I was sad to see him go.
I don't hate Vernon Davis this year or this game because if Reed is out, I mean, what do they have there? So I like Vernon Davis. I like Ebron. Just again, he's getting the opportunities, targets, and he seems like he found a home there. Good for him.
I'm not an Ebron fan this week, and it's simply based on the fact I kind of went back and I was looking through Dallas's games, and they haven't faced a tight end that gets the target share that Ebron's probably going to get, but they seem to be pretty solid against the tight end. That's just a lot of money to pay for me there. I like Gronk and Kittle in the same range.
Yeah,
sure.
Kittle and Gronk are my favorite for the week. Ebron's okay, but I'm going to go ahead and pay up for Kittle. We're down for Gronk.
Yeah, I don't know how much I love Kittle, but I just the Seattle team is on a rush right now. They are just absolutely steamrolling, and I don't know what's going to happen this week. I'm not a big fan of any of the San Francisco guys.
Yeah, with him, what's he, 6,300 on DraftKings? He's got to have a pretty solid day to even pay off his salary.
Which he is their number one target by far nowadays. So,
Sure.
I mean, he could do it. I just think Seattle's been on an absolute tear.
But I do think that I think the point that you're overlooking Ebron for these other guys and there's other options. I don't like playing Eric Ebron when he's the chalk, but when he's dispersing that ownership amongst other people, the Cowboys got ate up by Ertz. 9 catches, 13 targets, a touchdown for 82 yards, 14 catches on 16 targets, 145 and 2 touchdowns. They gave up 3 other touchdowns throughout the season. The Redskins had 8 for 12. The Falcons had 6 for 10, or 6 out of 10. So it's one of those things. If T.Y. Hilton is out, and he may, because I don't think he practiced today, it just kind of, how do you get away from him knowing that he's going to get 15 or 16 targets despite going against a defense that's good against the tight end? That's just an enormous amount of targets at that price.
That's a very excellent point with T.Y. Looking to be out.
Yeah, I don't know. I think T.Y. plays. I've been kind of keeping the track on that because he is in 2 of my season-long leagues, and he's trending to play. I think that I actually think about popping him in a couple of lineups because I think it's going to be a throwing game back and forth. So I'm putting Cooper and T.Y. Back-to-back in some of my GPPs. I like that game, and I like both those players. And I think that his questionable and his non-practice status, if you dig a little deeper and go to some beat writers' Twitter accounts, you're seeing most people are pretty confident that he's going to play the game.
Mm-hmm. You can't trust that questionable tag anymore with the rules. No more probable.
Well, I like T.Y. if he plays. I'm just saying if he doesn't play, you have to give serious consideration to jamming Ebron in there. Him and Chester Rogers.
Sure. I mean, but I mean myself, I get what you're saying, and it's more of a gut feeling for me. Obviously, I don't play the analytics a whole ton, but I don't necessarily like it when a guy like Ebron doesn't have the Ty that has to be covered, because I feel like that just forces them to double down on covering him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he could switch to the quarterback position, throw that. He could become a running back. Who knows? By the end of the year, they might have him just returning kickoffs and stuff.
Right.
True does have a rushing touchdown this year.
So I want to talk about wide receivers here. That's kind of my hot topic of the week. I think the wide receivers are a little bit more difficult to pick than the other locations here. My top guy for the high end is probably Stephon Diggs, especially in this format where it's only a half a point. So I like him better than Thielen. I think Thielen's been a little bit exposed the last few weeks. I'm a big fan of Diggs. He's probably my top-end guy salary-wise. He's probably my favorite target at the top end this week in the Yahoo.
I like him. I think you can go to either of those guys. I think Kirk Cousins is due for a huge game, and if he's going to have a huge game, it's going to come for both of those receivers. You guys don't know this about me, but I'm a huge Kirk Cousins truther. I always have been. It comes down to if the guy has some time to play, pass the ball. If he's just having time to go to 1-2 reads and he's got to run, he's going to have a long day. I think they haven't targeted Thielen enough. And I don't think it's because he's been covered. I think that there have just been some disconnects in that game. Or in that coaching staff, and I don't know if firing DeFilippo was the right thing to do, but hopefully it's a bounce back game, and these guys are looking to come back from being embarrassed on prime time. So
yeah, I agree with you, and I just think in the Yahoo setup, I think when you are going to have a guy like Diggs that they're going to give at least 3 attempts at a 25-yard plus air pass is way more beneficial in the half-point PPR than 7 attempts at 5-yard crossing routes. So I just am I'm leaning Diggs in this format.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I play a lot of FanDuel, I don't think that when you're getting the type of value or the volume that Thielen does command when he's on is a problem. I think that the biggest thing is that there's $6 separating them, and there's a lot of guys in between it. So, if you feel like Diggs is going to get more targets, then absolutely. I just think that Miami team they're going to have some tough times. Minnesota plays better at home. The defense plays better at home. Miami's going to be without Xavier Howard. So I just don't see a lot of situations for Miami to score a lot of points here. But I don't think that that's something to worry about from the Minnesota standpoint. I think that they're going to want to score a lot of points no matter what. So I think it is a explosion spot. And I like Dalvin Cook, too. I like everybody on that offense except for, Kyle Rudolph, who's disappeared this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And actually, Mark and I had a beer yesterday together, and I posed this question. I don't know if you know this about me, but I grew up in a Vikings household. My father is a diehard Vikings fan, so they are my second favorite team behind the 49ers. And, of course, go green, go white, big Cousins fan. So I really enjoy the Vikings. And the question that I was talking to my dad about, they fired DeFilippo, and I said maybe a little part of me thinks that Zimmer fired him because he's worried that if things don't go well, he gets fired and replaced with DeFilippo. I have a feeling dude's going to interview for a couple of head coaching jobs next year, and if it goes completely south for Minnesota the rest of the season, which I don't believe it will, you might actually see a situation where Zimmer's not a head coach next year and DeFilippo is.
Yeah, and the guy that they replaced him with, I forget his name. He's been in the Vikings organization for like 10 or 12 years. He's been tight ends, wide receivers coach. I think most recently he's been a QB coach, and they actually really, really like him. I think he was slated to, I forget which team in this offseason wanted to talk to him about being an offensive coordinator, but they actually ended up blocking it. The Vikings did because they really, really liked the guy. And maybe they even saw this type of situation where, I don't know, I just think DeFilippo was such a hot name that they ended up going out and getting him, whereas they wanted to bring this other guy up and be the offensive coordinator, and it probably made it easier to fire DeFilippo here to bring this guy and elevate him. But even given all of that, this guy's never called a play in the NFL as an offensive coordinator, so there's a lot of questions there. But if you're coming out and you're trying to prove yourself, how are you going to do that? And that's, you got to give it to your best receiver, and that's going to be Adam Thielen, in my opinion. But I can get behind Stephon Diggs too.
Yeah, if you need the savings, I mean, I like them both almost equally. I just like Diggs a little bit better. But I'm with you. I'm with you here. Who do you like at the top end there, Mark?
I'm leaning towards Juju. Belichick's going to take Brown out of the equation, so I think Juju is going to get the most targets in Pittsburgh.
See, my contention with that is I think that with Connor out and basically Samuel's operating as a pass catcher only and the run game just completely non-existent, I don't think Belichick has to worry about the run defense, and I think he can double Juju and Brown. So I have a hard time paying up for either one of these in this game because I think they both could have trouble, and I'm not sure which one really is going to get shut down.
I don't know if there's enough safeties to cover both double teams.
Well, I don't think they're going to get both double teamed. I just think I'm not entirely positive it's Brown they're going to try to take out of the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Belichick's smart enough to realize that Juju's the better receiver out of the two of them right now. There's been a huge article written from the Action Network, I think it was Matt Feldman, where he breaks down why Antonio Brown has fallen off a cliff and nobody's talking about it. He's probably not even a top 10 receiver right now. That being said, this is going to be a shootout. This isn't going to be a low-scoring game. Pittsburgh, New England is always a high-scoring game. I think they're going to pass the ball a lot. I think Connor might play as well. And I think they said that he didn't need to practice to play. They're going to score points. And I think Juju and Antonio Brown are going to score those points. I think, again, the attractive part about Juju is he's about $5 cheaper in this format.
Yeah, and my other big receiver is Robert Woods. I just see LA is just gonna roll Philadelphia, and I think Robert Woods is good for 100 yards and a touchdown. And then depending on the chalk, I was thinking the first lineup I built, I rounded it out with Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I do like Cooper. I think he's going to be chalk. I think he's going to be highly owned, but I just love his target share. I just can't. I have a hard time getting off of him too. I like him a lot.
Yeah, you
got like Tyler Lockett.
Lockett's okay. What's his price on Yahoo?
He's $24, so he's right there with Amari Cooper and Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods. I think he's somebody that I don't think you prioritize him over any of those guys, like you pointed out, but I think he's a better option than the guys right under him, like the Edelman, Fitzgerald, Tyler Boyd, Josh Gordon, Mike Evans kind of crowd.
Yeah, my only problem with Tyler Lockett is Seattle's run first. They run the ball any chance they can get. So, we're talking about high target people. I don't see him getting a lot of targets this week. But he's been catching a touchdown every week, so he's making value.
Well, what it is he doesn't. Okay, so he's not a guy that's going to get 10 or 11 targets necessarily, but he's going to get higher value targets in terms of yards. I mean, these are his game logs: 6 targets, 5 receptions, 67, 5 for 5 for 71, 5 for 5 for 107 in the sprint. Against the 49ers last time, 2 for 1, 52 in a touch, and then 5 catches, 42 against the Vikings. Doug Baldwin might be out, so he's going to be the primary beneficiary of that. He's one of the top-rated guys on Football Outsiders. I think he's number 3 in terms of efficiency and passing. And the other thing is you get the double dip is that he always has the opportunity to run back one of those punt returns or kick returns. I just think he's a guy that if he can get on the other side, I mean, Sherman's been fine, but the rest of that secondary in the 49ers has not been. So if they can scheme him open, he's going to have an opportunity or two down the field. It's just whether or not he can capitalize on it or rest control him.
Well, to give a quick game update, Phillip Rivers on the very first drive, interception.
So somebody had that in the chat room. There's the first of 2 picks. It wasn't a pick 6, but yeah, no, and I think Lockett is a great pivot in a tournament like this, where I think with the Yahoo pricing and the structure and the people that they're going for, you're going to have a lot of chalk. So that's a great pivot to try and be a little contrarian in this contest.
Chris, it sounded like you were calling him Tyreek Hill light there a little bit.
I mean, he kind of is, about the domestic abuse.
God.
So let's pull it up while we're here since we have some extra time. What kind of ownerships do we have on the showdown slate, specifically of Newsome? That was a guy that we were talking about, the ownership. I'm just curious where he's at on DraftKings.
To be honest, I got a little distracted talking. I only put one lineup in, so I'll have to go take a peek.
Well, here, I can pull this up. So Jackson, on FanDuel at least, Jackson's ownership is 61%, where Williams is 36%. Kelsey's 50%. Mahomes is 74%.
Newsome is 6%.
See, I like that. I mean, that's sexy.
Yep, and I did not edit my holding place, so I do have him in the captain spot. Love when that happens.
Yeah, Mahomes is 81% on DraftKings.
Yeah, I got 82 on mine. So
Tyreek Hill is only 36 on FanDuel versus the Kelsey 50%. I mean, I love the leverage there. I love it.
Yeah, he's 31 at DraftKings, and I threw him in the captain spot.
And so, I mean, I think the injury right there drove down that ownership. And I think we talked about it maybe last week or the week before, but just embracing that risk to get the payout. He is a little bit injured, but that scared the majority of people off of him. You can't tell me that even with that injury, he doesn't have the same probability of having a big game that Kelsey does, and his ceiling is so much higher than Kelsey's because he can catch 3 balls for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Well, and Hill and Williams are both in the game right now.
Uh-oh, I thought we couldn't do play-by-play.
Can't.
We can't. We're just hey, they're in there. They're there.
They're in the game. They're in the game.
They're definitely in the game.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
All right.
You guys want to see some golf?
What's that?
So when do you guys want me to tease some golf?
You want to do it now, and then when you're done with that, we'll come back and we'll pick up quarterbacks.
Sure.
How's that sound?
Sounds good. I could sense that you guys were dying for the PGA Tour golf teaser. So.
Dude,
Always, my man, always. I really want to get into golf this year. Mark and I were talking about it last night when we got together, and I know a little bit about PGA. I used to follow. I used to play fantasy golf quite a bit. So I feel like if I can just get back in the swing of things, it's like riding a bike, and I just get current with the players and the current courses, and I think I stand a chance, especially with you in our corner, Adam.
I will grant you that you stand a chance. It's tough though. So was it like old school Yahoo Fantasy Golf where you'd pick like 6 players each week? You can only pick one each player like 10 times throughout the season, or what was the format?
That was the way it was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you had like the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And yeah.
Yep, exactly. A, B, and C.
Yep.
I've got, in addition to DraftKings, I've got a one and done contest, which it's through Gups Corner, GUPS. So you pick one golfer each week. You can't pick any golfer any more than once throughout the year. It's all based on money earned, and they do it by quarter as well. There's like 4 quarters, and they kind of build it up like the FedEx Cup playoffs. So the last 4 weeks are all building to that final big prize. That's a cool setup. And I do one where I pick 6 players. It's all based on money earned throughout the year. And you can actually add and drop players. So it's all auction based. So it's like $100 salary cap, and your probably DJs and Justin Thomas's will go for like $30-$35, and then you can get some scrubs down there. Like I got Tiger Woods for $2 last year. Like the steal of a century. I got ripped on for it too. They're like, his back's done. You're going to be dropping him by the Masters. I'm like, no, this is the year. My boy is back. So that might be a teaser. I'm a bit of a Tiger slappy. But you guys have got a little bit hooked on DFS golf back in the fall. It's so much fun because it's, again, it's like a 4-day sweat. You pick your players before lock on Thursday morning. You pull up, I guess you're not really as much of a sit-down desk job guy, but you pull up the PGA Tour scoreboard on your monitor at work, and you can check it periodically and see how your guys are doing. You pick your favorites on PGA Tour the scoreboard, and they're right up top for you. Very, very user-friendly. But the format's cool. It's $3 or 3 points for a birdie, half a point for a par. It's only negative 1 point for a bogey. So the guys that really pay off for you, as I touched on in a few of the articles, are the guys that just go out there and make a ton of birdies. Mm-hmm. You can deal with the guy who's finishing 25th to 40th, somewhere in that range. If he's making a ton of birdies, you can kind of swallow his mistakes a little bit because he's making enough birdies and eagles and scoring holes to make up for it. So that's what I like to target. But, as we talked about before, every week is unique. So I'm going to be posting an article, kind of a 2019 season preview. Kind of guys to watch, guys I'll be targeting early in the year, maybe a couple specifically like what types of players to target on certain courses for the first kind of 3 or 4 weeks of the year. And then just like a PGA DFS strategy so that people know, every sport is so different. Like football, I think, is the most similar DFS sport to golf. Because like baseball, basketball, you've got your certain metrics that usually are completely correlated to success. So in basketball, it's usage, right? So if you've got a guy whose usage spikes and his price is low, and all of a sudden he's going to be getting the usage of a guy who's $2,000 more expensive than him normally, that's a guy you plug in your lineups. But with golf, it's not quite that simple. So every week it's trying to figure out where those puzzle pieces fit. And there's a lot of strategy involved. To me, it's a fun sport to take risks on, because you might see a guy at the top of the leaderboard you've never heard of. But that's just how the game is. It's so up and down. You can take some chances on some guys that might be 1 or 2% owned, and they can shoot you right to the top. So I've been getting prepared, grinding for the season coming up, and I got a few guys I'm really going to be targeting early that not a lot of people probably know about because they're coming off the web.com tour and really trying to start making a name for themselves. But very, very excited about the season. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. So the off season for golf's a little different because most of these guys golf year round, right? I mean, there's not like a huge cool off period, is there?
There is for some. It depends on how the guys break their schedules down. Like the guys that they're the big guns, they've got their money, they've got their schedule already figured out. They can kind of pick and choose. Those guys will usually stop after the Tour Championship, play a couple events here and there, just to kind of keep their game in form. But that's their vacation time. They're hanging out with their families. They're relaxing, recharging a little bit. Mm-hmm. But your guys that are grinding it out, trying to make a living, trying to keep their tour card, those are the guys that we were looking at in some of the fall swing events that we were targeting earlier this fall. This is kind of the funny season where you have like, two-man team events and stuff like that. But this is, if there is an off season, and there really is barely one now, this is kind of it right now. So we're building up these next few weeks to the first couple events in Hawaii.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. All right, so let's get back and finish up quarterbacks here. Quarterbacks on the Yahoo slate. Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those builds that I'm flipping through here, and you can fit any quarterback you want in. There's enough value. There's enough stuff going on there. So I don't know if I really love any of the guys at the high end. I mean, obviously I love golf, but I think he's going to be extremely high owned with the Sunday Night Hammer. I mean, I don't know if I can play him. I think he's going to be that high owned.
Yeah, and he's I think he's a little too pricey too. I mean, I don't think. What's he on there? 30? Was he 32 on there?
34.
34. So that's actually really high for a Yahoo player. It's going to be hard to squeeze other players in if you want to go for those stud receivers or get a decent running back in there.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan up there. I mean, if you want to pay that high, I guess you could. You can fit them in there. There's plenty of plays out there. But I think if you look down there in the under 30 range where you've got, Kirk Cousins, you've got Dak Prescott's probably going to end up having an okay game the way that Cooper's been going. It's probably not going to be very highly owned, so it's a nice kind of pivot for me that I've been looking at. But, I mean, what about Lamar Jackson? Do you think that's just going to be ridiculous chalk?
I don't care. That was my first quarterback I put in. I don't know if he'll be complete chalk or not. So I really like his value, especially against Tampa. Tampa's the worst defense in the league, basically, especially against quarterbacks.
Yeah, but I mean, Tampa's been playing a lot better since they made the change at defensive coordinator. You now have Flacco that'll be backing him up, so there's always the chance that Flacco comes back into this game. So, I like Kirk Cousins the best on those lower end or under 30 quarterbacks. It's just interesting because you don't have, you have no Mahomes, you have no Rivers, you have no Watson, you have no Breeze, you have no Cam. It's one of those weeks where you just don't have a lot of those high priced quarterbacks that you can kind of rely on and know that what you're getting. I think a guy that may be popular, but I don't think he should be, would be Josh Allen against the Lions. I think that could be a big mistake for a lot of people. The Lions have actually been the best at limiting yards per or yards rushing by a quarterback so far this year. And they've played rushing quarterbacks. They played Cam. They played Trubisky. So I think that's a huge mistake that some people might look at some of the past couple game logs and say, hey, this guy is coming out here. But the difference between the two is when you look at it, too, Lamar Jackson's got designed runs. Josh Allen is doing it when the pocket breaks down. And, maybe the pocket doesn't break down because it's the Lions, and maybe they can't get any pressure on him. Does he run then?
Yeah. And this is kind of deja vu because me and Danger had this exact same conversation last night at the bar. I was arguing the same thing.
And it's not that I like Josh Allen. I'm going to probably take one shot at him, in a cheaper league just because, Ziggy Ansah's out. And Trubisky is a good telling point. That's a good one to compare to. But I don't know that Cam does a lot of design runs anymore either. But I just think Buffalo's going to win that game. I think they're going to dominate. They're so tough at home. And the Lions suck outside. And It's the Lions.
Yeah, but I mean, it could be just like the Arizona game, and you're not going to have a lot of fantasy points all around. I mean, I think a guy, that will be under-owned, that's really cheap if you need to get down there, would be like a Derek Carr.
Yeah, I love Derek Carr in DraftKings. Absolutely love Derek Carr in DraftKings.
I mean, even on I just had it right here.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek Carr or Jeff Driscoll. I mean, Jeff Driscoll has looked competent. Both of those guys are super cheap. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. We saw Eli Manning winning GPPs. So, why not? Why not take a shot at some of those guys down there? I don't think you're going to go to Josh Johnson or Cody Kessler or Matt Stafford's super cheap, but I wouldn't go there either. So on those cheaper guys, those are some of the plays that I like. I don't like Jameis Winston. Tough matchup. He looked hurt second half. Maybe you can make a case for Marcus Mariota, but it's tough sledding out there in the quarterback world this week.
Yeah, this is one of the worst main slates I've ever seen in my few years of playing DFS. all the good matchups are on the the Thursday, Monday, Sunday night games.
And you've got this huge Yahoo tournament. You've got the DraftKings live final in like Miami, and then you have the FanDuel live final up in New York. So what a slate for it,
It's just ugly. It is so ugly.
What do you think? I mean, at that higher price, I mean, who do you like above $30? I mean, you've got Tom Brady. I like him. I think Mitch Trubisky. I like him. I like Andrew Luck. So, I mean, I don't know if Goff is going to command as much of the ownership as you might think. I think the guys that are priced around him, Ben, Russ, Andrew, and Mitch, are all going to kind of soak that up just because there is not that much lower. I mean, feasibly in a cash game, any of those guys under 30, can you really go to them? It's tough.
Yeah, the reason why I think it's going to be inflated is just because people are going to want that late Sunday night.
Yes, but I think that his 2 recent performances will bring that down. I don't think the sharp people or people that dig too far into it are going to be scared away from that. But I think the majority of casual people are going to look at those 2 performances and not take into account some of the different things that they need to. I mean, look, Chicago is one thing, but they're going to look at the Detroit game. That's a whole different story. Detroit's not known to have a good defense. So I think that'll bring it down a little bit and help keep it under control.
Sure. You know what we didn't get around is something that is going to help me really make my decision on these high-end guys is we did not talk about bargain wide receivers. We kind of kept to the high end. So who do you like down there? I mean, the radio's been a buzz all day with guys like Zay Jones. Who else was they?
Michael Gallup.
Just our radio show. Just our radio show loves Michael Gallup. But,
actually, Michael Gallup is he's on the air yards buy low list, I believe, and it's been 3 weeks in a row that they've just missed connecting on deep bombs. That it's going to happen. Maybe it doesn't happen this year, but it's going to happen. You've got, let's see who else is down there. I mean, you have Kenny Stills. Yeah, that's not a good matchup. Minnesota, Crabtree, Humphreys. Yeah, it's tough down there at the lower price because you saw what happened with Zay Jones last week. He just kind of disappeared. Believe me, he was on, a lot of the builds that I was on, and luckily I got off of them in most of them. And
I'm jumping back on that bandwagon. I'm gonna be honest. I'm taking another shot at him. He's too cheap not to. He's getting the targets.
What about Larry Fitzgerald? I mean, $20. They don't really have anybody else. Atlanta is better on the outside than they are in the slot. I just feel like he's got to have something going on at some point.
Yeah, I don't mind Fitz. I mean, I think most people have just completely written him off. So I mean, he's got the talent. The talent's there. They just don't throw him the ball. His targets are down.
The other guy that I think that's really cheap that you could go to is maybe a Corey Davis. I mean, if you're looking for a GPP, a pop, a guy that has a ceiling, I mean, Corey Davis isn't somebody you're going to plug into your cash lineup, but he certainly has the talent and the ability to have a peak week that does win you a GPP.
Yeah, there isn't much down here. I mean, I do kind of like the Zay Jones play. It's against Detroit, and I do like the negative recency biases. So everybody's going to be off Zay Jones because he had a bad week. So go back to him. It's like Leonard Fournette this week. I don't expect Leonard Fournette to be that highly owned because he did so bad last week. So I'm putting him in a lot of lineups this week.
Well, it's one of those things for me. Like, I look at it, and I've talked about it before. I want to play guys that are good at football, so I don't play Lamar Miller. And I looked at Zay Jones last week, and I was like, this guy's not good at football. Like, what am I doing? Why would I have him in all these lineups? I want some exposure to him. Certainly he has that upside, but I don't know.
Hold on, Chris. Somebody's got a really bad connection.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is it breaking up?
It sounds like you're in traffic.
Were you indoor skydiving?
All right, he muted or something.
There we go. Now it sounds great.
Yeah.
Hoorah.
It's just one of those things that, like, do you feel confident in the ability that Zay Jones has as a football player? I mean, sure, he's cheap and you're taking that, but can you construct your lineup in such a way that you don't have to roster somebody like Zay Jones? And, that was something that I looked at last week because I was high on him. We talked about him. I liked it, but, through a couple more comb-overs, it's just like, hey, I just can't get behind having him in more than, one low-exposure lineup. That's a concern I have with Zay.
Yeah, and that makes sense. You definitely want to play good players. But yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say Marcel Aitman down at $11. He's been consistent. He's not. The problem is that when you're looking at some of those lower end guys, you're wanting a guy that's going to have a spiked week, and that's what I look at Corey Davis. When you get to some of these lower end guys, do they have the ability to put up, a 20, 25 point score that you're going to need to win a GPP? And I'm not sure if Zay Jones has that. I mean, he's done it, but you're going to do it again in the same year. Does Aitman have that? Does somebody like maybe like a D.D. Westbrook, Michael Gallup, Jordy Nelson? That's what I look at. Is some of these guys can certainly hit value, and that might work in a cash game. But when you're looking at that large entry GPP on Yahoo, are you really going to play those guys? Because are those the guys that are going to win you the tournament? And I would tell you more often than not, probably not.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm glad you brought up D.D. Westbrook. He's been on my radar all week long. I have a hard time getting him in there because I have so much Fournette and I have so much Jacksonville D that I don't want to double, get down on that as well. But when you look at D.D. Westbrook this week, Washington's defense has been awful in the secondary, and from what I understand, they're missing yet another cornerback, and so the guy covering the slot, which is where D.D. works most of his snaps, is apparently a undrafted free agent getting maybe his first or second start of the year.
Yeah, I like DD, and then, I mean, just to have shades of last week, if you wanted to play DD and you didn't want it with Leonard Fournette, pull Leonard Fournette out, slide Derrick Henry in there.
Right, absolutely. I like Derrick Henry again this week, and and on Yahoo, Joe Mixon's that same price too, so you got some people to move around.
And I like Joe Mixon. I mean, Joe Mixon has been producing at a decent level, even with all the other injuries and everything that's going on in Cincinnati, and having to inevitably probably talk to Marvin Lewis and Hugh Jackson. I mean, just how terrible would that be, and how demotivating could it be walking into that locker room? But he's still producing, and he is one of those guys that could have a huge spike week like that could win it. I mean, he's been close. He's been close as it is. And, the comparable price guys like Sony Michel, I don't like him this week. Aaron Jones, I've been on him the last 2 weeks. He scared me last week. He scared me. But I will not be playing him against the Bears in Chicago.
No, he's definitely on the bench for me.
And here's a question more geared towards season long, because I don't think I could do either of them in DFS just because I just can't do it. But is this a Sony Michel or is this a James White game? Because I have both of them in 2 different leagues.
I think it's a James White game because I think this is going to be a back and forth game. It's in Pittsburgh. I think there's a possibility New England is playing from behind. So, I just think that this is a game where Pittsburgh does come out. They play well. They score. These teams always have those type of matchups. And so those games tend to be more of a James White game and not a ground and pound with Michelle.
Mm-hmm. Any love for Julio Jones? I asked this because looking through Roto Grinders stuff, they seem to really, really like him in the lineup builder.
I mean, he's well priced. It's Julio. It doesn't
Their
matter.
projections have him scoring the highest points of the week.
Let me see. Yeah, the projection system that I have actually has him scoring the highest as well. It's 16.3 on Yahoo. And he's been getting in the end zone a lot more frequently, so you can't argue with that volume. I don't think that Patrick Peterson has been shadowing. I know he wasn't at the beginning part of the year. So you'd think that even if he was, they could scheme him around to get him open. Outside of that, Ridley's disappeared. Sanu hasn't been there for a while in terms of any type of meaningful fantasy production. And we talked about Tevin Coleman and his shortcomings. They're at home. They play better at home. It's Julio. You got to play him.
Right. Absolutely.
He's one of those guys that not only can win you a GPP, but he can also prevent you from cashing in a GPP because he just has a monster game. And if you don't have any of them, he's one of those guys that can actually go out and put up 50, 60, 70 points. And you can, what are you going to do at that point if you don't have any?
Well, it's time. It's time for the tipsy pick of the week.
Dun, dun,
Have you put any thought into it, Mark? You're always the last one dragging in on this.
I know, it's because I'm doing all kinds of other stuff.
Put any thought. Let's play you can just go right into this Yahoo $1 Million Baller, and you can click on the flex button or, all, whatever you want to click on. And let's call the Yahoo, let's call it $15 and under. Let's call it under $15. Have you put any thought into these guys? I'm going to probably go ahead and say D.D. Westbrook. I've been on him all week as my low-end guy. I love him a lot. He's got that supposed undrafted free agent slot corner going after him. I think that he's my guy this week. I'm going to go D.D. Westbrook.
I'm going to go, you said 15 and under?
15 and under.
I should take Michael Gallup just to annoy Chris.
I have a backup. I was going to go with Gallup no matter what, but I have a backup that I was going to put as well. So
I'm not going to take him though. You're cool.
We can share in the joy. It'll be okay.
You know what? I'll take Kenny Stills. $14.
I like it. Chris?
That's not tipsy. That's drunk. I'm going to go with, obviously Gallup is there, but I'm going to go with Marcel Aitman against Cincinnati. You can't stop anybody. I think he's going to have one of those 7 to 8 target games. He's going to bump up from the 4, but not quite be the 10. He's going to go for about 80 yards, maybe 100, 80 to 100 yards and a touchdown. So let's say 7 catches, somewhere between 80 to 100 and a touchdown. Marcel Aitman.
I like it a lot. I like all these picks. These picks are great. You guys are awesome. You're my favorite people. Just saying.
Now you can stack all those high-priced guys.
That's right. I love it a lot. Well, I don't have anything else. Let's get out of here and let this next show get their sound check in and get it all ready to go. We have got the Fantasy Fisticuffs Football Thursday with Dan and Dave is what the schedule says.
Nice.
And again, I would like to thank I'mABeerHound.com for being our webpage sponsor. I'd like to thank the Lenny Melnick FantasySports.com, of course, for the new Legend Network that will be launching in February. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat room. You guys are awesome. Go check out our webpage. I put it up at the top there in the chat room, DraftForUpside.com. Don't forget to go to www.lennyformanoftheyear.com. I think I made that up, but it could be there.
All right. And, thanks to Adam and Chris for coming on and joining us for another show and writing some great articles on the website. Thank you both. And I'm Brewery Mark. That is Danger Cole. We're Draft for Upside, and we'll see you next week.
Open up your mind, you'd see what flies behind your eyes.